going on, and welcome to another episode of Game Time. We are here with episode number 4, and you are joined with your two hosts, Tom, Bock, and SnowBikeMike, where we get together and talk about video games and sports, our shared passions on this awesome little podcast that we do. Tom, Bock, how are you doing? Welcome back from vacation.
Man, it's good to be back from vacation. It was a hot week down in the desert, played some games, drank some beers, hung out with family, played some golf, drank some beers. Dude, it was a good week. It was nice to get away for a week. It's good to be back though, man. There's a lot going on this last week we can catch up on here.
That's great, Tom. And you know what? You don't look that sunburned for sitting out in the desert sun, so you're looking good. I'm proud of you for practicing sun safety.
Sun safety always, man. You got to practice sun safety, especially when it's 100 degrees and you live in Seattle, right? You know, get in the sun, literally your life would be wrecked. Like my kids who refuse to get out of the pool the whole time, they're like freaking lobsters right now, and they're suffering. So.
Well, we're going to start off this episode just catching up. You know, you're back from vacation. I know you played some games. We want to talk about last week's episode. So let's just kind of get into it. Tommy Bock, you know, why don't you start off with your vacation? Because I know you brought a couple consoles down then there, and it'll kind of mix well with what we've been playing lately. So, you know, on vacation, you were hanging out at the pool. You had some consoles. What did you play?
Dude, well, first of all, before I start, it's National Pet Day, so you got to give a shout out to the pugs, Clay and Steph, the greatest dogs in the world, besides my dog, of course.
I was just going to
say, a few pictures of today.
My MVP, my All-Stars, my NBA championship pugs. We'll put some photos in there. And, of course, we got to give some love to your dog, Mini Chewbacca, the Wookiee in the making out there.
Is that shit crazy? That dog looks more and more like a Wookiee every day and grows like 5 pounds a day.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny as hell. So it is National Pet Day for all you pet people out there. Pets make our lives so much better, especially our dogs, right? Couldn't live without them. All right, so yeah, man, I actually got caught up on some games that I've been dying to get caught up on. Look, my backlog of games is still ridiculously huge, which drives me crazy every day when I walk by my kind of gaming console stack of games. I'm like, oh, crap, I didn't get to that. But I did get to 3 games that I've really been wanting to play a ton of. One on the Switch, Mario plus Rabbids. Kingdom Battle, which is really a fantastic game for people who've played it. I think you know how good it is. Dude, that game is really, really, really difficult. Have you played it at all? I don't think you've ever talked about it before.
No, I have never played it, but you know what? You and I talked about it on Wax, and it sounds right up my alley. Being a big XCOM fan like I am, I mean, the way you described it, I was like, ooh, I could get in on some Mario XCOM crossover.
Dude, it is so much like XCOM that it's almost kind of frightening. I think some of the strategic depth of XCOM they obviously leave out, and some of the kind of progression of XCOM, it's nowhere near as deep, but it's the same exact kind of theory. It's super fun. It's super difficult. In fact, the farther I get into it, I catch myself watching a lot of YouTube videos now to see how people actually did it, because I can't freaking get through, which is crazy on a Nintendo game that I can't even get through some of the levels. But played a lot of that, loved it. Have you played Celeste at all? That's one I don't know that we've talked about
No,
before.
I saw the big hype train for it when it released, but
Yeah.
you know, that wasn't up my alley. That's why I skipped that one.
It's one you have to have a ton of patience for. Maybe one day you should check it out. Like it's a really, just as a game admirer, you got to kind of appreciate what the developers did with that game. It's one of those punishingly hard games, but yet it somehow manages to kind of keep your attention and not get too crazy. So I played a lot of that. And then the game that I still just grind through, I don't know how many hours I'm into it, not enough apparently, is Persona 5. I did bring my PlayStation down. I probably put in 10 more hours of it, so not a ton. I'm not even freaking, like, I've got 150,000 hours to go in that game, I'm sure. But I love to do that game. Have you played Persona much?
I've played Persona 4 Golden on my Vita, probably about halfway through it. And then, you know, I account share with a good friend of mine, Sad Boy Sean, as I've referred to him many times on the podcast. We're PlayStation buddies, so I have his Persona 5 on my console. Have yet to play it. I'm afraid because I want to dip my toe in, but you know, I just can't find the time to dedicate an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours to get in that grind, to get in that rhythm, you know.
I think it's one of those games because you know it's going to take you 100 hours. It's a tough one to jump into because you know it's going to take you that long. So it almost kind of turns you off from the start. You hear people putting in that many hours to it. But I'm going to get through that game one way or the other, not because I'm forcing myself, but because, dude, that is a phenomenally made game. Anyways, that's what I did. I played a ton of games, which was awesome to be able. I wish I'd brought my damn Xbox down because I kept seeing you guys, watching you guys playing PUBG. But I got my fix on last night, which was good. Had some fun with that. So back in the PUBG saddle again.
I love it, Tom. I've been in that PUBG grind. I think I'm still at that 4 to 6 hour marks each and every night, 7 days a week, playing PUBG with Griff, playing it with Sean Twisters, playing it with B. Earl the Squirrel. I mean, the whole gang, we're still grinding on it. But, recently I wanted to take a step back. I wanted to try something different. We have a new free MMO RPG on your Xbox and PlayStation consoles. That's called Terra. And if you know Snowbike Mike, I have a little soft spot in my heart for MMORPGs online. World of Warcraft, growing up at such an age where it was like really ingrained in my blood. And man, I love World of Warcraft so much. I was awful at it, but that kind of game on a console is right up my alley. Me and the guys back in the day used to grind hard on ESO, so I wanted to give that a try. And you know what? I was apprehensive at first. I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know what it was going to be like. But the moment that I jumped into character customization, they have about 8 different races, I would say. And one of them is, like, instead of being a goblin or a dwarf in the World of Warcraft world, it's actually mini animals. So the first thing that popped up, the pre-created character, was a mini pug. And I said to myself, oh my gosh, I have to now play this game. So I stopped right there and then, and I started grinding on that one. And you'll see a lot more of that on stream. I'm going to play a lot of it. But I dipped my toe into it. I'm digging it. And, with the pug thing, National Pet Day, I'm into it. So Terra's got my attention. I'm going to put some more time into that. But haven't been playing many games besides PUBG.
How far into Terra do you think how many hours you put in so far?
Probably an hour and a half. Not
just a little bit
farther past the tutorial area, which is fine. We're getting the basics, and it was mainly, I saw the mini pug, I had to do it.
Dude, of course. I mean, my God, any game with a pug in it, it's game over.
I'm locked
in. You're locked in. You're totally locked in.
So that's been a little vacation, a little game update. We want to do one more update before we jump into our topics of the show. Tom Bock, we are now into the second round of the first annual Kinda Funny Best Friend Tournament. And last episode, we gave some bracketology. So this episode, we just want to do a quick overview, maybe of some big-time upsets that happened, and take a look at the second round. So, Tom Bock, anything stand out to you to start this right now?
Yeah, that I got my ass handed to me in my predictions, dude. I was I could not have been more wrong about stuff. And I was thinking as I was watching it play out, and you were hazing me for my bracket getting busted, as were a lot of people. And I made the foolish mistake when I first did it of thinking of things that like I liked personally. Like every bracket you fill out, that's how you do it, right? Like if I do an NCAA bracket, I don't give a crap what anybody else puts in there. I'm not thinking what everybody else is going to vote. I'm thinking what I'm going to vote. And like a dumbass, that's the way I approach this one. And my bracket's completely jacked. So huge mistake in my approach. And even more importantly, dude, don't underestimate the power of the internet when it comes to like Rooster Teeth fans, Funhouse fans. Like there's no stopping the people who live and breathe on the internet, right? Because they're going to be in there voting way more. So dude, my bracket's completely jacked. A few of my people are still kind of hanging in tight. Dude, you're killing it. Your pick. You looked at it absolutely the right way. The dragon, I mean, it's clear to me now he's going to win.
The dragon, baby, breathing fire on everything he touches. But a quick one right now. There's only one number seed left. He's actually playing right now. We're going to talk about it. But Taco Bell upsets LaCroix. That was a big one for you. With the LaCroix pushing, I thought they would have got a little more involved. But Taco Bell had the vote there, folks. I know people were mad about that. Want to really quick jump into just the second round stats since we are into day 2 of it. There's only going to be 4 days of it. So right now, you have DiGiorno over Oreos, a 51-49 vote right there. The last 2 minutes of the poll, DiGiorno pulled ahead. It was 50-50. Wow. Right, Tom? Wow.
Super tight. Crazy that it went down, and there was some funny tweets I saw going back and forth. The people who run DiGiorno's social media, man, spot on. That was funny as hell to see that little go back and forth. That was good.
And I had Milk's favorite cookie because, I love Oreos. I mean, I love pizza. They go hand in hand. But, big shout out to DiGiorno. I think that social media, that person who coordinates that really took him over the top right there.
Completely.
Then we got Cisco in a landslide over Anthony Carboni. You liked Carboni, but we knew Cisco was going to breathe some fire on that. So that was a quick throw-out game. You have Tim Schafer over Hunter Pence, who is the last number 1 seed in right now. So you can kiss all the number 1 seeds goodbye as Tim Schafer moves on.
Tim was one of my picks, though, so I'm hanging in with Tim.
You're hanging in with that.
My only one that's left.
That was an odd one to me. Like we said, I thought he needed to get involved to move forward right there. And being the 1 seed, I thought he might have it over him. But being a gaming community, I think more people tend to go towards the games than the sports, and that's totally understandable. Yep. And then to finish out what has already concluded, Elise Willems, the 8th seed, over Adam Kovic from Funhouse as well. There she is. The Cinderella herself is continuing to move on, folks. This is going to be a good story to keep an eye on.
Dude, it'll be a good story, but I don't think there's any stopping Cisco. Like, the more I think about it, the more I understand a little bit about who's voting for this, and he has so much ability. He's 1 tweet away from winning like 90% to 10 if he feels like it. Like, seriously, there's no stopping it, dude. Your call there was spot on.
And so let's round out. We are now currently in day 3. We got 2 going on as we speak. Jeff Ramsey currently over Shuhei Yoshida, 65-35. 16 hours left. Of course, you're probably watching this podcast late, but go vote if you haven't, because that's Tom Bock's dude right there.
It's my dude for the finals. I'm done. I'm finished. He's out, dude. He's gonna get smoked.
Like I said, Tom, the only way Shuhei Yoshida would win, he has to do one thing, and you know what it is. Let us change our PlayStation names. And he didn't do it, and this is what's happening.
Can you imagine if he came out now and he's like, look, I've been saving this entire year. I knew this was coming. Bang, here you go. And then he wins in a landslide. That's the only chance.
And then our final match of the day, you got Drucker Altano over Grimecraft, 79-21. Looking like a landslide, but still, that's early in the voting phase. 22 hours remain in that one. We like Drucker Altano, you and I. I like Grimecraft. I love that music of his. I love his style. So it's a tough one, but you and I did choose Drucker Altano to keep moving on that one is right.
Dude, Drucker Altano, Cisco final. That's it right there.
Whoa.
I'm calling it right now. I'm breaking it out right now.
And then tomorrow, we are going to finish up the second round of voting for the first annual Kind of Funny Best Friend Tournament, and that is going to be Taco Bell versus Portillo's and Rahul Kohli versus Barb Dunkelman.
After beating Troy, dude, that was... I would have never in a million years seen that one coming. Even Mark Hamill gets involved, and it still doesn't go Troy's way.
Tommy, that was your second insurance pick. You loved Troy Baker. He's down. Then Mark Hamill out of nowhere sends a tweet saying, please help my guy out. Just wasn't enough to push him past Rahul. And the Funhouse fanatic continues to move on. Oh, my gosh, folks.
Never underestimate the power of Rooster Teeth and Funhouse ever again. They may be the final. That may be the final for all we know.
Could happen, but you and I talked about it. Taco Bell versus Portillo's. You know, you didn't like Taco Bell, but now you're adjusting to the audience, you say. But you said Portillo, not really nationally recognized. Could they pull off an upset? I mean, technically they are a 4 seed over the 8 seed. That is Taco Bell, but I don't see Taco Bell stopping right now, right?
I don't either. Dude, I don't either. Like, there's no way. Again, it's like, look at the people who are voting. I don't mean that derogatorily, but there's way more people that know Taco Bell and are going to eat at Taco Bell and are going to vote for Taco Bell. Fuck, it's just the way this is going to go down.
Well, make sure all you Kind of Funny best friends out there, go vote. Go get involved on the first annual Kind of Funny Best Friend Tournament. We're having a lot of fun, a lot of heartbreaks, and there's some Cinderella stories going on. And that is enough of intro. It's time to get into topic number 1. And this one is near and dear to my heart, Tom Bock, because you know I'm an Xbox guy, and I love the backwards compatibility. And guess what? Yesterday, Xbox has announced 19 OG Xbox titles coming to Xbox compatibility. Oh, boy, Tommy B, they are reaching into the archive. So I got all 19 titles listed. We're going to talk about them. We're going to talk about the release dates, maybe some that resonate with us. But I'll burn through those. And please stop me if you hear any that you love, because you know I'm going to stop when I hear some that I love. So your first 8 that released on April 17th, 7 days from now, here we go. You got Blinks, the Time Sweeper Cat. No resonations right there. I will say the only thing that I have is, you know, when we talk about those mascot platformers, the console mascots, Blinks was one back in the day for Xbox Original. I'm interested to get into it. I've never played Blinks, but I'm all about the mascots being a formal mascot in my life. You know that.
Oh, yeah.
Next one is going to be Breakdown. Never heard of it.
Didn't play it.
Nope,
Nope. Knew of
don't
it.
know
Didn't
that
play
one.
it. Yep.
This one is my Gatorade get hype moment. My prayers have been answered. I'm holding the
crazy.
box right now. Conker's Live and Reloaded is coming to Xbox One, OG compatible. I have my Xbox original version right here in my hands. And if you didn't know, you could used to play this on the 360. This was backwards compatible. And now they're bringing it to Xbox One. I hope that they have their Xbox Live multiplayer enabled on this, because it would be so cool.
Do we know? So that's a great two things I got to ask you. Stopping on that one because I know, dude, this is like so your jam, and I've been dying to talk to you about it. Did the Xbox 360 port or whatever they call it, the backward compatible, did that have multiplayer on it?
It did have multiplayer.
Okay, so you got to figure this one is. That would be a strange thing for them to kind of to do for one iteration and not to do for this one. So you got to kind of figure that that's going to happen,
Yep.
right? So give me like the. So I definitely played the game a little bit. I got to be honest, my memory of it's kind of fuzzy. Like it was. So when the list first announced, not to change topics too far, but they did this back in October of 2017, right? So they released kind of all the big OG Xbox ones like Psychonauts, Crimson Skies,
Yep.
Black,
Fusion Frenzy.
Yep.
Yep.
Prince of Persia, Ninja Gaiden Black. Like to me, like that list that I just listed, those 6, every one of those is totally my jam. I played the living crap out of every one of those games, especially Psychonauts, Crimson Skies, Prince of Persia. I mean, all of them. I played like tons and tons of hours of those games. I played a little bit of Conquer. Give me like the 2-minute Snowbike Mike. What is it about Conquer? Because, dude, my memory of it is kind of fuzzy. Like, I don't completely remember that game for much of anything other than a mascot platformer. So give me the lowdown.
The lowdown is it is the HDified version of Conker's Bad Fur Day from N64. So you still have the same campaign, the same story. It's just, HDified for the original Xbox. And then, of course, the graphics kind of got boosted from there. So I expect to see some pretty decent graphics boosted here. But the big change is on the N64, you had about 8 different game modes. We talked about it on episode 1. One of my favorite games was Conker's Bad Fur Day on N64. And they had some fun multiplayer with bots. This one actually took that to a different multiplayer version of more of like a third-person shooter with different goals and objectives. But it was very far off from what the original multiplayer aspect was with the different game modes. So you'll see more of a shooter, third person, maybe capture the flag, a domination point, take over a different base, but you won't see the cool ones from back in the day when it used to be a Velociraptor. They had Heist back in the day. It's more of a military shooter. So you'll see that with the cute squirrels and the evil teddy bunnies or the teddy bears, which is awesome.
And wasn't it like, if I remember, wasn't it like a little bit or a lot adult? Didn't he have like super freaking foul language? And
the box right here says, warning, do not play this game if you're under the age of 17. Conker's Bad Fur Day is pushing a hard M right now.
That's so funny.
Mind you, the N64 port that you got on, the Rare Replay had licensing issues, so a lot of that like hard, mature stuff, some of the songs weren't in the Rare Replay. So will we see it in this one? I don't know, but I do know that's why I've held on to my N64 version so far, because it is the true original right there with all, the bad language, the different bad songs, kind of like South Park the movie when you first watched it.
Sure, dude. I'm excited for this too, because I got to tell you, backwards compatibility has always been kind of strange to me, because everybody always talks about it, right? It's one of those giant features everybody talks about with all games. You always laugh at me because I'm old and crazy set in my ways with stuff, and I always buy physical games because backwards compatibility hasn't been great, right? Through all the generations, it's really been kind of sketchy for what you're going to get and when you're going to get it. And this is one that like I constantly wrestle with, because everybody always talks about it and says they want it. I'd love to see some of the stats. I know Microsoft puts out some stats, but they're a little misleading as far as how many hours get played, because you really don't know what the base is, and it sounds like it's this great thing. I guarantee you they spend a ton of money on this one, and what's really interesting about the way that they do it, they're not selling new consoles over this backwards. This is a perk, right? This is a hey, if you game in the Xbox ecosystem, you get this great additional thing that you can't get anywhere else. But dude, I really wonder, because I don't catch myself doing it a bunch. Like it's one of those ideas that sounds better than it is where I always land on it. And I this game is one I'm really interested to play because I didn't spend a lot of time with it. But I always wonder on all these, like with all the new crap coming out, am I really going to go back and put like 12 more hours into Crimson Skies or Ninja Gaiden or one of those? I don't know. I don't know where you fall on it. Like, do
No,
you catch
Tom, you
yourself
hit
playing
the
them?
nail right on the head of like, here's the big question. We can give you all these perks of Xbox compatibility, backwards compatibility, but are you really going to stop all these new games that are coming out? Are you going to stop playing those? Are you going to stop playing Far Cry 5 for Conker's Bad Fur Day? Are you going to stop playing it for Blinks the Time Sweeper Cat? Probably not. But, man,
No.
you know, the true Xbox fans that have been ride or die and some of these games that resonate with you. I mean, you're talking to me, a guy who owns the original Xbox game still in his hands, the N64 cartridge over there.
Oh,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
this is one where, like, I think to myself, I'm going to drop everything to play this again and play it a lot, as opposed to a lot of these titles we're going to go down with. I'm like, I would never play that. I wouldn't spend the money on that. I
Yeah.
wouldn't take the time. But I think it's one of those of, like, they want you to be able to reminisce. They want you to remember, like, hey, those games that you spent a lot of time in, those games that you loved, you know what? We want you to be able to put those on your backlog and be able to play them and not worry like, oh, they're gone forever. And that's something for me of like, man, I felt so bad because this only worked, this original Xbox copy only worked on a couple of 360s. There was a couple of 360 versions that wouldn't take certain Xbox, you know, discs and drives. And so, you know, it's one of those. I'm like, man, thank God they brought back one of my favorite games. And I think it's a proven one with with Crash, you know, Crash Bandicoot of like,
Yep.
if people put a lot of hours into this and play this, could we talk about remaking this? I mean, they once teased him in that one game where you could create
They
your
did,
own games,
right.
remember?
Yep.
He had his own founders pack.
Yep.
So I think it's also a test. Blinks the Cat. If people put in a bunch of time in games into Blinks the Cat, guess what? We could see a remake of that or we could see a new game. So
Yeah,
I think it is a good testing bed.
I do too, and I think it, look, it's one step closer to where Microsoft clearly wants to go, which is gaming as a service, right? That it's platform independent now. You're not going to have the hardware is just going to run this massive catalog of stuff. For them to go back and backwards compatibility, especially the really OG Xbox ones. I mean, there's a ton of 360 games, obviously, that they've done it with. My list of ready to update when on my Xbox One is huge. There's hundreds of games in there, right? Things that I bought over the years. It's just one more kind of. It's funny, man. I kind of feel bad for Microsoft in a way. I know a lot of Microsoft people living up here in Seattle is they're doing all the right stuff, right? I mean, and they're losing the console war by such a mile this generation, but between backwards compatibility and now Game Pass and just kind of the Xbox Live ecosystem, which I still think is kind of head and shoulders above PlayStation, although not as bad as or big a gap as it used to be. But they just didn't have the games, man. They did not have the games and don't have the games that PlayStation does. And crap like this just gets swept under the rug. Can you imagine if Sony came out and did a backwards compatibility? Dude, people would flip their minds out if Sony ever did that. And Microsoft's been doing it all along, like quietly doing it and getting no recognition for doing it. So anyway, let's go. We can go through the rest of the list. But
one quick note on that one, Tom, as well. Might be something interesting to look up. I don't know it off the top of my head, but are all these OG backwards compatibility games, 360 Xbox, on Games Pass? Because if now they're on Games Pass for $10, like there's even more of an entice of like, we're going to bring you back. We're going to provide another extra 100+ games. Sure, they're 360 and OG Xbox games, but like, man, that Games Pass starts to continue to look better and better if you're adding these titles, which it's like, are they really selling that many? Probably not, but would be a perfect addition to boost up those numbers of Xbox Games Pass.
Why wouldn't they put them on? Why wouldn't they? I mean, this is a huge lift development. This is a huge cost. They got to go in and redo all these games on the new architecture, make sure they run. I mean, this is just a money loser otherwise, right? They're just throwing tons of resources at these games, manpower and developing time and everything. They're not, again, they're not. This doesn't sell consoles. This isn't like, console moving behavior. They're doing it as just a additional perks. So yeah, we'll see. I think it's fantastic, and I'm sure they will put it on Games Pass.
And final note before we move on to the rest of the games, makes me want to bust out or buy that brand new Duke controller that's compatible with the Xbox One, right? You talk about OG Xbox games, you're like, man, I got to go get that Duke controller then.
Fucking crazy thing.
Let's scroll through these ones. A big one that also resonates with me, the Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind. I mean, all right, baby, let's get into it. I loved Oblivion. That one's backwards compatibility. Of course,
Yep.
everybody loves Skyrim. It's on every single console ever made now. And to
And
have
still coming out,
Morrowind
yeah.
come back, that was my first introduction to Elder Scrolls
too.
back on the OG Xbox. And that was one, it was so difficult. You take for granted all the things that they've added into Oblivion and Skyrim. You
I
go
know.
back to that, there's like no map. You don't know where anything is. It's like, yo, go find that guy down the street. And you're like, what street and what does he look like, you know? So I can't wait to get back into that one. I'm a big fan of that. Hunter the Reckoning. Never heard of it.
Didn't play it.
Okay. Jade Empire.
Definitely played it.
Okay.
Not super pumped. I mean, that's probably the highest rated, I think, of all these games. I kind of looked through old Metacritic stuff. I think that's probably the highest rated one.
Okay.
Although I probably didn't play too much of it. Not in a great position to comment on that one. That may be one I would play just because I missed it.
I never played it, but watching the press conference, that was the one that Larry Herb and the two other guys got kind of hype about. They rose their voice for that one. Panzer Dragoon, Ulta or Ortra. I don't know. I don't know that one. This one resonates with me, being, you know, SnowBike Mike. SSX3. It's
Ditto.
tricky, baby. Let's go. So, you know, I love that. That rounds out the 8 titles that will be released next week on April 17th. Now we're going to burn through these 11 releases coming on April 26th. Destroy All Humans. Fun game. Liked it. Not probably going to go back to it. Full Spectrum Warrior. Never heard of it.
Ditto.
Mercenaries Playground of Destruction.
I played the hell out of that. That one I definitely played and enjoyed. And there's still people playing that game. Like I saw the other day, I was looking at either Twitch or something. There's people definitely. I mean, that game still has some people still playing it, which is crazy. I
like hearing that, Tom, because I've never heard of it, but that name sold me. Mercenaries Playground of Destruction. Guess what? It's enough adverbs and adjectives to get SnowBike Mike to buy it.
You're in. You're in.
MX Unleashed. Now, I got to say, Tom, I love motocross ATV games because, you know, I like to get buck wild in PUBG and do double backflips like Travis Pastrana. So, if it's one of the better ones, maybe. Panzer Elite Action Fields of Glory. This is going to be a European release only, so we won't get it. Never heard of it, though. And now we're going to roll into a whole lot of Star Wars. Star Wars Battlefront 1. Star Wars Battlefront 2. I mean, come on. These are the games of my childhood right now.
Ditto.
And this is the one everybody got all uptight at Star Wars Battlefront, the newest releases. Well, guess what? You wanted the old ones? Here they come to you right here, right now. Star Wars Jedi Knight Jedi Academy. Played it. Enjoy that one. Star Wars
favorite,
Knights of the Old Republic 2, The Sith Lords.
Did not play KOTOR 2. Played the first one. But, dude, Jedi Knight Jedi Academy is a great game. Like, that's one of my favorite of all that big bunch. And Battlefront 2, I think, are my two favorite of the big Star Wars contingent.
Love it. And our final two, Star Wars Jedi Starfighter. Never heard of it.
Didn't play that one,
But this one resonates with me. Star Wars Republic Commando. That's when you became the clone trooper, and it was a first-person shooter. They were trying to make like a Halo spin-off of it. That one was pretty cool.
Dude, it's funny that they did like, 5 or 6 Star Wars games too. I wonder if there was something that must have just been like, I don't know if the developer's the same on all of those or who did those. I'd have to go back and kind of look through.
Here's a fun stat for you. This is now 7 Star Wars titles now from the OG Xbox compatible for Xbox compatibility. So, wow, that is a lot of Star Wars coming your way. They must have some sort of licensing deal or something where their hands are on this. Because, man, 7 titles already from the OG Xbox alone. That doesn't count Force Unleashed 1 and 2 that they put out on the 360. Right? I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing. And it's what also kind of struck me was, man, there was a lot of Star Wars games that were released back then. Like, I forget how many actually came out. I mean, they were banging these things out like one after another compared to now when you get them so infrequently, but they're very different games than what all of these were. But dude, I think this entire idea of what they're doing is phenomenal. Like, there's a few games I still kind of think about and wish that they would throw in here, but if I look back to that original October 17 list, these were the games I probably put, a few we obviously didn't play, but the ones listed here in the original list, that's 90% of what I played besides the Maddens and the FIFAs and the sports stuff and the original Forzas. And I think there was like an off-road, not like dirt, but one of those, because I'm huge into the MX ATV type stuff like you are as well, right?
Oh,
but They're hitting the nail on the head, man. They're getting all the right stuff out there. At least I think they are from the games that resonate to me. So
Well, that's topic number one. 19 OG Xbox titles coming to Xbox One compatibility, backwards compatibility. Come on, people, let's go. But it's now time for topic number two. Blow the whistle. We're jumping into some sports talk, y'all.
yeah, baby.
So here we are. April 11th, we're winding down the NBA 2017-2018 season, and the playoff picture becomes clearer, maybe? We got a lot of shaking up, but we got a lot of talking to do. So, Tom Bock, let's dive into the NBA playoffs of 2018. We're going to start in the East because it's a little more clear there. Couple of wild standouts there that I want to talk about. But just to give you the picture, current standings are going to be Toronto at the 1 seed, Boston at the 2 seed, Philly at the 3 seed, Cleveland at the 4 seed, Indy at the 5 seed, Milwaukee at the 6 seed, Miami at the 7 seed, and Washington at the 8 seed. You and I both have up this awesome infographic from ESPN that actually breaks down. We're in the last couple nights of the season, and there's some movement, there's some shakeup. A lot more in the West, but in the East, Philly and Cleveland could switch on that 3 and 4 seed. Milwaukee, Miami, Washington all could switch at any position through the 6 through 8 seeds. So, Tom, anything stand out to you?
You know, this is one of the years that I don't know that the seeds matter as much in the East, because to me, first of all, I've never seen this before where the last day of the season, we'll talk about the West in a minute, that it's come down to the last game, the last day, teams that could switch from 4 seeds to 8 seeds, and like it's madness to think of the last day of the season meaning this much. But here's where I stand on the East, man. As much, obviously health is such a huge thing, and we'll talk about it as we go through this. Like I was more looking forward to this playoff than many years in the past. And then there's like injuries galore, right, between Kyrie and kind of what's going on. At least and then the Cavs are completely healthy for the first time all year in all likelihood. So I don't know that the seeding matters as much with all these last games. Yeah, people can flip flop and do some stuff, but dude, do you really see anybody outside of the Raptors, the Cavs, or the Celtics being in the Eastern Conference Final? I don't.
No.
I can't imagine any of those teams.
Those are my big three. Like we talked about before, Tom, nobody's beating LeBron. LeBron is my guy. I think LeBron will put it on his back. He wants to go back, take on the Warriors. Shucks, even take on Houston, but we'll get into that in a moment. But I got everything on LeBron. Very pumped to see Toronto. You know, they don't get that much coverage. This was a team back in the day, a couple years ago, made it to the Eastern Conference Finals, fell off, and has just kind of been a run-of-the-mill team in the East. And now look at them, the number 1 seed in the East, over Boston, over Cleveland. I mean, this team is doing something, and you haven't even heard that much about them. You know the big two, but come on. That team, good for them. Heartbreak for Boston. Get the 2 seed, and then Kyrie to be out the rest of the year. I mean, heartbreak for that squad. But shout out to those young guys right there, the rookies, the sophomores that make all that tick on that team. That's going to be a tough team coming forward.
Dude, think of them going forward too. Like when they get back to health, you know, between Kyrie and what's his name that broke his leg a week into this season, right? Like it's crazy to me how good that team is probably going to be going forward. But who's going to beat? I mean, it's kind of the same thing in the West. Who's going to win 4 out of 7 games against the Cavs? Like they could be the 8 seed and play all 7 games on the road, you know, and still nobody's going to beat them 4 out of 7.
Still going to beat you. You could have home court. We got Cavs, you and I in the East. I love seeing Milwaukee. I love seeing Philly up in there.
Great.
Indy with Victor Oladipo carrying that squad. Great for them. Miami with D. Wade in his final couple years of his career. Yes, let's go. And then, of course, Washington. That team is so near and dear to my heart because I try to replicate John Wall's game on the regular in my men's league. And, like, to see John Wall stay in it, even though he's a possible 8 seed right now, that is not what I like to see from my Washington team. But they need another superstar with that duo over there. Martin Gortat is not the 3rd superstar that you want to have on that team, but at least they're there. You know, Tom,
they can make some noise, right? They can make some noise. And, dude, Philly, I mean, let's not forget. I mean, people will forget what Philly was the last couple of years. To think of this team, what are they going to win, 51 games, 52 games maybe, after they couldn't even win 15 in years past, they have the biggest winning streak. Dude, Joel Embiid is a freak of nature. Like that guy for the next 10 years, if he stays healthy, is going to be, he may not be Shaq level great, but as far as a big man center, like dude, he is pretty freaking amazing. Seems to have his head screwed on straight. Like they have such a bright future. The Eastern Conference, it's probably time for LeBron to bail out of it, to be quite honest, because there's a couple up and coming teams I think that it's not this year, but next couple years.
They're on the rise. So final pick, who's coming out of the East? You and I. Let's go.
It's Cavs. I mean, to me, it's so locked. It's not even funny. But I mean, maybe I'll be proven wrong, but that's who I'm going with.
Going with Cleveland, I would be surprised if they didn't make it out. Let's switch gears, head on over to the West Coast, best coast, baby, and let's talk about what's happening. Same rundown. I'm going to get you the current standings, and then we'll jump over to that ESPN graphic of what could happen. So currently, you have Houston at the 1 seed, Golden State at the 2 seed, Utah in 3rd, 4th is Portland, 5th is New Orleans, 6th is San Antonio, 7 is OKC, and 8 is Minnesota. So from here, from the 3rd seed down to the 8th seed, we got a lot of movement and shaking, and we'll talk about that, Tom. But, of course, Houston takes the 1 seed, Golden State in the 2 seed. Wow. Houston, Tom. We talked about the beard in previous podcasts. Are you kidding me? Locking down that 1 seed over GS Dub? Whoa.
Crazy. And, man, they've deserved every bit of it, too. That team has been look, a Mike D'Antoni team has never been able to do – they've always had these great regular seasons, right? Look back to the Suns days, the Knicks days. I mean, there's been a lot of 50-win-plus D'Antoni teams just because of the style they play, which in a funny way, if you think about what the Warriors do, D'Antoni was trying to do that years ago. I mean, maybe the defensive part was a little sketchier because clearly – the year that the Dubs won, they were also the #1 defensive team too. And D'Antoni's never take the D out of D'Antoni, right? There's no D.
That's a great one.
Mike and Tony, right? I always loved that one. But dude, the Rockets have had a phenomenal year, man. They're so deep. Their bench to me is like they've got 2 starting 5s basically.
Yep.
Plus, Harden to me, him and LeBron for MVP. I don't really know what you're going to do with that pick, but dude, I'm kind of like a believe it. I'll believe it when I see it guy when it comes to the NBA and it comes to especially this part of the NBA in the finals. Chris Paul's never done great in the postseason. James Harden's never done great in the postseason. So my jury's a little bit out on the Rockets, but dude, they've had a phenomenal year. Phenomenal.
It's going to be a tough team to beat. Of course, Golden State, we love Golden State, but let's jump into just the mayhem that is the rest of the seeding. So right now on our cool infographic, the 3rd seed, Portland and/or Utah. 4th seed, Portland, OKC, Utah, San Antonio. 5th seed, New Orleans, San Antonio, Utah, Portland. 6th seed, Denver, OKC, San Antonio, Minnesota, or New Orleans. 7th seed, Denver, Minnesota, New Orleans, or San Antonio. And 8th seed, OKC, New Orleans, Minnesota, or San Antonio. Whoa, Tom. That is like 5 to 6 different teams. That could be the 3rd seed. That could be the 8th seed. Whoa, look at that movement and shaking right there, Tom.
Crazy. And the percentages, ESPN did a really cool thing kind of showing what the percentages, but to have a team the last day of the season, like the Spurs are, that could be a 4 seed, a 5th seed, a 6th seed, a 7th seed, or an 8th seed, teams that could be 3, 4, 5, 6. And I think the seeding matters here way more than it does in the East, right? Like some of these teams can actually kind of push, I think, a few of these teams because they're used to playing them. They see them a lot more. Like the seeding's going to matter. So some of these games tonight, and there's at least one game too.
Yeah, there's a couple games right now going on.
Nuggets, Timberwolves. I think the winner there. I mean, there's a couple of win and get in kind of scenarios too. So, dude, this is so exciting to see what this will look like tomorrow because it's I've never seen this much variation here at the end. Where do you fall on the West overall?
West overall, I love Golden State, but I want to really just with that, I want to say a couple of ones that pop out at me. Portland at the possible 3rd seed. Wow. The baby mamas, or what was it? The mama's boys over there, those 2 guards. Look at them, possible 3rd seed. Utah with Duncan Mitchell, possible 3rd seed. Good for them. Making that happen without Gordon Hayward. So impressed by them. But my big one that stands out to me, Golden State at the 2 seed. If the 7th seed is OKC, we got a problem here, Tommy. I'll take
a big series.
Anybody over
But
OKC. I mean, we'll play San Antonio, we'll play New Orleans, Minnesota, Denver, whoever. But you got Russ, PG, and Melo, and that hungry team taking against Golden State on the two seed. That is going to be a long, drawn-out series that you do not want to mess with in the first round of the playoffs, Tom. That's got your endurance is going to be tested there.
it will. I mean, you're going to have to beat one of those kind of teams anyway eventually. You just don't want to do it in the first round, right?
No.
Like, dude, Duncan, did you see Donovan Mitchell's rookie
Yeah,
t-shirt?
I love that. I love
it. Was great.
it.
The Ben Simmons thing. Yeah, it is. That team could be. I mean, look, Westbrook's going to win 2 games by himself, literally, and you're not even talking about Hoodie Mello and PG on that team. I mean, that team, no matter who they play,
they're going to be a problem.
It's a problem, and it's a problem coming out of a 7 seed, right? They'd almost be better picking up like a Spurs. I mean, as weird as that is to say, like
I said, I would rather play the Spurs. I would play anybody on that 3 through 8 list that we just went through than OKC, because that's just bad blood. Those are 3 mean dudes that want to run. And Golden State, Steph currently with the knee, possibly out for the first round. They're playing really edgy and fast and loose with that. Andre has a knee problem. He sat out last night's game, so he's 50-50. And then, of course, you got your backup point guard, Patrick McCaw, out for 4 weeks right now. So you really start to go up and down with Golden State of like they want somebody easier for that first round. And, yeah, I'm a little worried for that one, Tom. What are a couple that stand out to you, though?
Dude, Golden State's arguably in the worst spot the whole season at the end of the season, which is crazy. Just they have no continuity, the injuries, all that kind of stuff. It's funny. I kind of fall the same spot of the who's going to beat who out of 4 out of 7, right? The NBA. The best thing about the NBA to me is you don't luck into winning anything. It's not like I'm a baseball fan. No offense to baseball, but one swing can change the game. A team can dominate a team the whole game, and then one swing changes it. Football even a little bit has that. Yeah, you got to play better, but you can have weird, freaky fluke plays. Dude, not in the NBA, man. When you play, 4 out of 7, the best team who played better always wins. You never luck your way into it. So I keep thinking of who 4 out of 7 is going to beat the Rockets, who 4 out of 7 is going to beat the Warriors, and the answer is nobody. So it's got to be. I mean, I hate to always pick chalk, but it's got to kind of be the 1-2, because I don't see anybody going to beat those guys 4 out of 7 games. Now, if one of them was suspect, it's like we talked about, it's the Dubs, right?
Yeah.
And it's going to come out of somewhere weird, and all likelihood it's going to be somebody like OKC. Like there's a lot of great stories in there with the Jazz and other teams that traditionally haven't made the playoffs recently, but none of those guys are going to make any noise, right? There's 3 teams that could: Rockets, Warriors, and OKC. That's it.
I agree, Tom. And, yeah, I'm excited. I would love to see Rockets, Warriors, Western Finals. Let's battle, you know what I mean?
Can you imagine? Be huge.
Who are you thinking's coming out of this, though, Tom?
I'm going to go with my heart. I want the Dubs to. I just feel like they can still do what no other team can do and throw matchup challenges at you that you can't really kind of deal with. If Steph is at all healthy and they get any continuity in the second round, I still say the Warriors are the best team in the West. When they're playing together and healthy, I see the Warriors, and I just haven't seen enough out of. God, I love Chris Paul so much, but they've just not done well in the postseason. I don't know what it is about their 2 superstars that haven't found a way, but they haven't found a way, and until they do, it's hard for me to pick them.
Yep, I'm going with the Dubs as well, Tom.
Yep.
Well, that concludes our sports segment. We love talking sports together, especially when it comes to NBA basketball, me and Tom. So thanks, Tom, for taking the time, and thank you, all those listeners and watchers out there, for enjoying some sports talk with us. But now, our final topic of the Game Time episode, podcast number 4. Tommy B, this one's all about you, so I got to get to take the back seat. Let's dive in. We want to get to know each other a little bit better. We want you, the best friends out there, to get to know us a little bit better. So, Tom, we're going to run through maybe your favorite top 10 video games of all time. I saw your list. We might go a little bit more than 10, but you know what? Lay them down on us, Tom. Let's talk about it, baby.
I'll trim it down, man. And as you can attest, I've been wanting to do this topic kind of from the very beginning of us deciding to do this podcast, because I'm not real big on list making. Like, I always laugh at people who I shouldn't say laugh at people. I always laugh at the idea of ranking things, especially things, as you can see from my guitar collection. Like, you can't really rank art. You can't rank art. You can't rank. I always laugh. People rank movies or songs. It's just art. Like, there's not one that's definitively better than the other. But with video games, I have a weird passion of like kind of ranking them, which is kind of breaking my own sort of rule about ranking art. So I'll run you. I've been wanting to do this topic. We can kind of lightly hit them here, and then maybe in future podcasts, kind of branch off and do other ones because I know this podcast getting kind of long. But so I did a top 10 that turned into a top 12, and then it turned into a top 15. Dude, it's hard to do it. We'll do yours next week. It's hard to do a list because you feel like you're going to leave some stuff off. So let me throw you just a couple that didn't make the list that I are still some of my favorite games. Resident Evil 4, fantastic game. 2005 time frame. And that one's been ported and changed a bunch over the years, and different aiming schemes and some stuff, but it's a great game. Uncharted 2, actually anything in the Uncharted series, I think for me is always high on my list. You mentioned XCOM earlier, giant XCOM fan. Like I have hundreds of hours between XCOM and XCOM 2. I love what Firaxis does with those games, some of my favorites of all time. I threw Horizon Zero Dawn in there. I think that game in years from now will be considered one of the best games out of this generation. I really do. Guerrilla did such an amazing job with that game, kind of out of nowhere. And I still go back and play it even to this day. I think it's just such an exceptionally made game. And then a funny one, if anybody's ever played Need for Speed Hot Pursuit back in 2010 by Criterion, that was like the original cops versus robbers. You drop spike traps and smoke, and it's kind of like a car combat game almost.
Yep, that was one of my favorites. Yep, that
Love
resonates
that
with
game.
me.
Dude, love that game as far as like some of the time challenges, the speed of that game, like on a big TV now, and it's not on the backwards compatible list, which drives me freaking nuts because that's like I love that game. And any of those, are you big on any of the ones I just mentioned of those kind of?
Need for Speed, Horizon, oddly enough, I didn't get into. I think there was too many games out at that time, or I just didn't take the time to get into it. I find, like we talked about before, streaming, I'm still trying to find that rhythm of like, how do I play solo player games, keep the audience entertained, and also find time for myself off stream to play some of those games like Persona 5, Horizon Zero Dawn, where I'm by myself, I can play those solo games and not worry about anything. So never jumped into it, doesn't resonate quite with me. Never played Resident Evil 4. Of course, Uncharted and, XCOM we talked about. Love those, Tom. Love your honorable mentions.
Yeah, good. All right, so here's the top 12. I'll go through them kind of in reverse order. Super Metroid to me, in fact, I just played it the other day. I've got the little mini SNES, right? The new release of the 20 games. That game is held up. It's crazy that game, it was done in 1993, still is as good as it is. And people who play Super Metroid know that game is just fantastic. Number 11, I had Bloodborne. Huge FromSoft fan. Anything, I mean, it's hard to put, any of the Dark Souls. Is it 1, 2, 3? I mean, there's just, they're all, anything From does is amazing, but I put Bloodborne at 11. I chose Batman Arkham City as my Rocksteady entry, even though I think everything in that series, for different reasons, I like. Everybody kind of trashed on Arkham Knight for the car combat thing. I actually dug it for the Batmobile. I thought that was cool. Like I didn't have the same issues that a lot of people did. I just got done with the Arkham collection. I just got done playing Arkham Asylum. God, that game is so good. The voice acting, obviously, with Mark Hamill doing Joker. But Arkham City to me was the one that was just the first time it opened up. It was so big, moving around. You really felt like Batman. I still think that's a top 10 game to me. Red Dead Redemption is my number 9. For all the obvious reasons, right? Is the only Rockstar game I had in there. You could throw GTA 4 and 5 up there, obviously, but I think Red Dead was the most special game that they've done. Mass Effect 2 at number 8. I think that was the best of the bunch. I love Mass Effect 3. I know a lot of people, the controversy with the endings got kind of wonky for people. I think that was the best playing game, but Mass Effect 2 is just a brilliant game. Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past, I have at 7. I know most people have this game at number 1. Have you played Link to the Past recently?
No, never played. I'm not a big Zelda guy. The only one I've ever jumped into is Breath of the Wild. So I have no love or, no ill feelings, just neutral for Zelda.
Yeah, that's one. I mean, like I was Game Informer just did a top 300 of all time, and I think they interviewed 40 of the writers, and I think 35 of them had this as their number 1 game, which is kind of crazy. And I did play part of it, or about half of it, on the new SNES. I got to keep playing it. It's held up. It was released in 92, which is crazy. That game is like, what is that, 25 years old now. It's insane. Super Mario Galaxy 2 I have at number 6, which was I think I mean, they're both Super Mario Galaxies are fantastic. This one to me was a little bit better, level design a little bit better. And then the top five, I did notice weirdly that they all kind of came from the same rough time frame, which I don't know what the hell was going on in my life then. That maybe I was just a little bit more into games during this span. And they're all kind of similar in a way too. They're all kind of first or third person kind of action adventure kind of games. So here we go. Number 5, I have Dead Space. I don't know if you played much Dead Space.
I haven't, but they gave it away for free, so I'm gonna play it soon.
Dude, you got to play Dead Space. It was I mean, it's the kind of survival horror in space. Some of the mechanics in it are just brilliant, man. It's such a great game that I play. In fact, all 5 of these games I think I play once a year. Since then, I always go back to them and play them. So Dead Space at 5, Portal 2 at 4. Such a brilliant game. I'm always amazed by games that can be just hard enough without frustrating you. How they manage to balance that, given all the different kinds of intellectual capacity of people who play games. That game is so good. The puzzles in it are just perfect. Like, they're perfect. And when you solve one, you get that amazing, like, I can't believe I finally figured this out kind of feeling. Last of Us at 3. Say no more of what Last of Us was and meant to most people. Naughty Dog, to me, I can't wait for Last of Us 2. I can't even imagine what that game's going to be like. And then the top 2, Dark Souls, which I talk about, I think, almost every week. Still one of my favorite games of all time. Will always be one of my favorite games of all time. It will never not be. I'm still amazed by that game. And then number 1, and there could have been multiple of, I could have picked any of from the series, but the original BioShock, to me, is still probably the game that caught me the most off guard as far as what it did. I play it probably twice a year, if I'm being honest with you, man. Like, I play that game pretty regularly. I've probably played it start to finish 15 times, and I'm not exaggerating. Along with Last of Us, I think I played them both kind of the 10 to 15 range. But BioShock to me is just still incredible. One of the best design games, the narrative of it, the whole vibe of it. It just does something to me when I'm in rapture underwater doing it. It's fantastic. So I don't know if anything in that list of 10 was huge on your list or.
Wow, Tom, I am super impressed. I mean, man, he's putting the ball in my court. I got to do some research now. I got to get some dates. I got to get some developers, y'all. Make sure you tune in next week. I got to bring the heat out here. But, yeah, Tom, a lot of those games, some games I never played, some games really resonate with me. Of course, Bloodborne was a big one for me. Jumping back into Dark Souls. I mean, big love and shout out to Sad Boy Sean of I used to bang my head against the door just on the first entry boss of Dark Souls 1, that big green goblin thing, because you had to drop down and stab him in the head, and if you don't, you got a problem. And, man, if it wasn't for Sean looking at me like, Mike, you got to retry this, I'll help you. I mean, those games turned from my most hated games on the planet to my most beloved games. So seeing you put those in there, that really resonates with me. I've played Portal a little bit, but never actually got into it. So, that one I just have no idea about. BioShock, I got into BioShock 2. Never really got into BioShock 1. So BioShock was great. I love, BioShock 2 and BioShock Infinite. So 1 never was big for me, but the rest of the series was big in my mind right there.
Did you play Infinite? Have you played the more recent ones? Yeah, great game.
So like I said, I played the past 2, but shout out to the BioShock collection. I probably should get on that so I can dive in to the first one. Last of Us, of course, I know Last of Us is on everybody's list. Will it make my list? Tune in next week to find out. You never know. Red Dead, I have a big problem with Red Dead. Loved the game. It was amazing. But your boy SnowBikeMike forgot and or never learned the fast travel system. So I was extremely burnt out by the end of the game because I would have to ride my horse everywhere. And I mean, when I say everywhere, you go from one side of that map to the bottom and then do it 100 more times, and you tell me that you had a fun time. So Red Dead for me, really, I was so upset by the end of it. I missed that mark right there. And then all of a sudden I have Undead Nightmare in my hands, and I'm thinking to myself, this could be cool. And then flashbacks happen of just what Tom was doing, just riding that horse. And I said, never again will I get back into this. So little jaded with Red Dead, even though I know how great it is. Batman Arkham City, I love that you put that in there. I mean, all the Arkham games were really big with me. I loved Knight. Like you said, I liked the car combat. I liked the Batmobile. I wasn't mad at it at all. I actually never played Asylum. I got into City, liked Origins a lot. I mean, a lot of people don't like Origins. I had no problem with Origins. I liked the Deadshot part of it in there, so I was big fan of it. That's about it. You know, actually, it's funny. You know, you'll notice Tom has a lot of these Nintendo games, Super Mario Galaxy, Legend of Zelda, Super Metroid. I have never played those. I wasn't a big Nintendo guy besides my N64 that we'll touch on. But, I mean, once you got into Xbox One, PlayStation 1, and onward, I never really made the jump over there to GameCube and all that. I had a couple, but you'll see on my list, I'm a little bit different from Tom, and that kind of stuck out to me of like, man, check him out. He has a couple of these Nintendo games on here that I've never played before.
Yeah, that is interesting. I had 3, and I was kind of looking through the Nintendo kind of back catalog. Like, did anything else really jump out at me? And those are kind of the big, you know, massive ones that I think everybody kind of has their, you know, on their list somewhere. And that doesn't, I didn't even put like Super Mario 3, Super Mario World. I mean, there's a bunch of other, but dude, when you do your list, you'll see this is really hard to compare games of different generations. Like, it's really, really difficult to say like a Horizon Zero Dawn, or, I mean, think of the more recent ones on here, like a Bloodborne even. Man, it's really, how do you compare that? Again, back to my original comment of you can't really grade art and you can't really rank things. They're not even in the same, they're like totally different things. To look at a game made in 1993 with 8-bit pixels, and then to look at that, like, how do you even kind of compare it? All you can do is like, what emotion does it give you? Is it fun? All of the things that we do, the reason we love games, right? Not to pick them apart for technical stuff, but just, is it fun as hell? And every one of these games to me was either fun or brought out like a huge emotion in me, whether, you know, like a Last of Us, the story in that, dude, the story in Red Dead Redemption to this day, the end of that thing, I almost couldn't believe the ending of that game when I played it. Like, did they really just do this, right? With John Marston was insane. And the good news is a lot of these, there's new versions of all of these, at least a lot of them, with the exception of BioShock, which I hope Ken Levine and Irrational kind of gets, and Irrational's gone, I guess now technically, can get something back together with that. But there's going to be more FromSoft games. We saw them announce something recently. I'm not sure what it was, right?
Code Vein. Very excited for that.
We know Last of Us obviously is. Valve's right here in Kirkland, not far from me. You know they'll always have something, whether Half-Life, which I struggled not putting Half-Life on this list because I really wanted to, but they're going to continue, I'm sure. Dude, play Portal, by the way, Portal 2. It's the simplest mechanic. There's 2 buttons. There's 2 portals, an in portal and an out portal, and the amount of shit that can be created out of that will blow your mind, dude. You will absolutely love it. And then, of course, I'm sure they'll do more. I mean, they just did Mass Effect Andromeda, which I still put a ton of hours in. I'm a huge Mass Effect guy. So that's what excited me about my list, was kind of like, man, most of these games, there's another life coming out of every one of these, at least some of them, or the vast majority of them. You'll see, you know, another game released in the next couple of years for it. So, dude, I'm excited to see your kind of list and talk about those as well. Yeah, man, that's it. Hopefully that was a good insight into the things that I've kind of dug over the years, and kind of when I think of gaming, the ones that really, you know, resonate with me.
Oh, I love that, Tom. What a great idea for a topic. I love getting to know you better. I love that, you know, the best friends out here that listen, that watch the podcast can get to know us a little bit more on some of our insights, some of our passions, some of our loves. And isn't it funny, the full circle of one, amazing human nature, just the world around us. Everybody sees something differently. Something resonates with them. Somebody brings them joy that's totally different from one another. So how cool is that? And then the first circle of like, man, some of these games have returned to your life. Some of these games are getting new HD remakes. Some of these games are coming back with new series. Man, backwards compatibility, to bring it back to topic 1. How interesting, you know? That's amazing.
Dude, by the way, before we wrap, if you were a Batman Arkham Knight fan or Arkham City, dude, you have got to play Asylum. Asylum is arguably the best of the bunch. It really is. It's way more linear, but as far as the story goes, dude, you have got to get the Batman Remastered Collection and play it. You've got to put that on your list.
All right, I'll check it out. Well, that concludes topic number 3, and that actually wraps up episode number 4 of the Game Time Podcast with your boys, SnowBikeMike and Tom Bock. Tom Bock, tell them goodbye. Let them know where they can find you. And gosh darn it, thank you for another great week of gaming with each other and another awesome podcast.
Dude, absolutely. And by the way, I wanted to say a quick shout out to you. I watched you do your NBA 2K announcing. Man, do you have any idea how good you are at doing that? From an audience perspective, to listen to you, knowing you the way that I do, my brother from another mother, watching you go do that, dude, you are so freaking good at that. It blows my mind. People who haven't seen it, I'm sure they can go back and watch the old YouTubes or Twitch streams of you doing it. Dude, big props to you for doing that. You are phenomenal at that.
Oh, you're going to make me blush, Tom. Thank you walking out of this
It's true.
now.
It's just true. It's true. So find me at Twitter at Galunga. That's it.
He's making great dad jokes. He's talking games. He's talking sports. Go find him there. Of course, you can find me at SnowBikeMike. I'm streaming to you live 5 nights a week on twitch.tv/SnowBikeMike, and I will put in a little bit of highlight clips from that 2K announcing. I just love, my two passions in life, basketball, video games, the blend that is NBA 2K and this new Pro-Am scene that's been around for a while, but, really coming into fruition with the NBA 2K League, video games as an esports, shoutcasting, analytics on the other side, broadcasting. It's all such a blend and something that I hope to, further my possible career in, continue my passion with it. And, shout out to all the people that allow me to do that. The WR Pro-Am League, the MPBA 2K Pro-Am League. These guys took a chance on me and allowed me to do that, bring a voice to their big-time events. And gosh darn it, it's a lot of fun to do. So thank you for that. Tom Block making me blush before we leave. But thank you all so much. Remember, comment, like, share, subscribe, all the things. We want to hear your feedback. We want to know what you guys think. We went a little long again this episode, but you know what? We took some feedback from episode 3. You guys wanted us to go a little more in depth, a little bit longer, and we're going to try that out. We're going to have some fun. So thank you all so much as well. Keep an eye out. We are going to go audio only on SoundCloud coming up soon, so you guys don't have to just watch it. You can listen to it on your little pod, walking around, hanging out. So thank you all so much. This is the Game Time Podcast with SnowBikeMike and Tom Bock, episode 4 in the books. We'll see you all next week. Have fun out there, gamers. Peace.
See you guys. Peace.